Yeah, I think you find him eventually once you like
start doing stuff.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about him in the next book.
Oh my gosh, he was our plot.
I know.
Point.
I was reading about it. I'm like,
Hello. Welcome to the Tabletop Travel Guide, the podcast where we explore fictional worlds and civilizations right from the comfort of our own table. I'm Ryan, and we have not played Pathfinder a couple weeks. I haven't recently.
haven't, yeah.
But we beat the last boss in Valheim, the Emerald Flame, so that went well. Freaked out a little bit, only died a couple times, and we were good to go.
Nice. I'm Tyler, and last week in our Tuesday group, I realized that I had to tank a lot as a witch because our thaumaturge went flavor over function on his armor, and so I had higher AC than him.
The witch, classically a tanking,
Yes.
tanking role. Yes.
He like ran in, and then they went in and started like beating up on him, and we're like, oh no, we gotta save him. So my little divine witch dove in, and he tried, but I do like that character. I have a little mood cloud named Bernard as a familiar.
It's great. I'm Sam, and in that same Tuesday session, the players actually completed the dungeon, which was great. It took a while for them to complete said dungeon, partly because some of the combat's been really rough because we've not had our tanky and fighty characters all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I also really love Tyler's mood cloud. I stole some creative permissions with him.
Yes.
And had him do a couple of things in the session.
Nice.
That were fun. I gave some clues. So like Tyler did like a knowledge check on something, and then the mood cloud rolled an aid, so I had him use precipitation to give clues for what they needed to do. So
little cloud.
it was
I love
fun.
that.
He's great.
Love it.
Good old Bernard and Sebastian. I'm a little ant knoll. So I'm a little tiny like hyena looking guy.
With his little mood cloud.
My little mood cloud.
Very adorable.
We're BFFs.
Adorable.
Adorbs. Okay, so today we are diving back in to our favorite adventure path of all time, Age of Ashes.
Is that true?
Is it our favorite?
Is it our favorite?
Is it our least favorite?
What are we determining as favorite? So if you are tuning into this episode and have not listened to the first episode, please go back and do that, because otherwise this will be confusing.
Or don't.
Or don't. You live your life.
I feel like the first half had some, positive redeeming things. And then the second half, I'm thinking, is going to get worse. So
the problem is, I think the second half gets better, actually.
Uh-oh.
What?
But like better in a way that like I wish it would have. I don't know. Like it's got highlights, but it's just too long. We'll see.
Well, give it to us straight, Tyler.
Okay.
Why don't you jump right back in. Give it to us.
Yeah. Okay. So we talked about books 1 through 3 last time. So quick refresh. You all show up to Breachel. You get sent to a citadel. You find a bunch of portals under the citadel. You go to the Mwangi Expanse. You deal with some elves. You beat up a cult.
Yep.
You do a hex crawl for 1,000,000 years.
You do a hex crawl.
There's a dragon with like a crystal in it.
Yeah, there's a dragon with a shard in its chest. You come back. You go to Ravenel, and you fight against some Scarlet Triad people.
Sure.
You...
And slavery.
And slavery. Yep, slavery is a big thing here, which you're fighting against, so that's good.
Good.
You end up going to a rock quarry. You take out the area of the kind of Scarlet Triad in the whole of Ravenel. And then the next step was to go to the next level of management.
You got the key.
Yeah, you got the key. And the next step was to deal with a person who is in the Five Kings Mountains.
So now we are moving into the part of the adventure path that you did not DM
Yes.
and I did not play.
Yes. So if you enjoyed our like little nuggets of story last time,
they're gone now.
They're gone because we did not continue with this adventure path. And honestly, like I think I feel like I've heard it somewhere that like 6 story adventure paths like kind of drop off at book 4 before picking back up for the finale. which I kind of got reading through this,
Okay.
and maybe that's why like book 4 is like, let's drop it. Rereading it, I think I brought this up last episode, but there's just like a ton of exposition about like what's happening in an area that like doesn't really matter that much.
Sure.
So it's just like kind of hard to get through all the relevant nuggets of what's happening. I don't know. I'm kind of like I like a little bit of exposition, but I'm kind of let's just dive in.
I also like to know like what is important, because like you can have mystery and you can have other things and like different plot threads, but I get too in the weeds if it's not clear what is the important plot thread.
So anyway, book 4 is beneath, what is it? Fires of the Haunted City. There we go.
Oh, not underneath.
Of the Haunted City. Okay.
Of the Haunted City. Yes. Still Ash. Bringing that back. Ash motif here.
I wasn't even going to do that, but now I will.
There you go. This time the players are going through the Jewel Gate. Jewel. And you end up dealing with a ghost of an elf wizard who doesn't realize they're a ghost, but is helpful as long as you don't bring up that fact. You're like, hey, hanging out. They like got incinerated ghosted in the portal by doing some things and just like came back as a ghost and didn't realize they were dead.
Just like the Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
They were dead the whole time.
Headcanon, he now looks like Bruce Willis as a wizard elf.
An elf wizard.
An elf wizard. Ooh. So, on the other side of the Jewel Gateway station, you end up in the Darklands. Hey.
Oh, hey, nice.
We've been there before. So you end up in the upper Darklands, and you kind of need to work your way farther into the caves. They have to make it through a domain of Gugs.
The Gugs, I remember. Okay.
Yeah, which, if you need a visual, they're kind of like the Stranger Thing monsters.
Yeah, they're kind of
like
gross.
their face kind of splits open.
Not as cute as the name would suggest.
Yeah. So you kind of fight through them, and by fighting them, and there's like a king of Gugs you talk to, they hear about that the nearby town or nearby city, Sagarak, is ruled by a magma dragon named Vishumerix.
Vishumerix.
Yes.
So the magma dragon, that's like a combo earth and fire, right? Like
Yeah,
get into
just like
Avatar.
bending.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
all going back
It's
to
magma
Avatar.
bending, earth and
Yeah.
fire, yeah. Well, magma bender. Eventually, as you get through the tunnels down into the upper Darklands, you end up in the ruins of this dwarven city called Sagarak. It was once a prosperous city that has since become riddled with undead due to orc sieges. A long time ago, that kind of starved out the entire city, whose population died and then kind of rose again as an undead.
Great.
And
Womp womp.
and they became an undead kingdom ruled by a ghost dwarf named Harl. As learned earlier by the Gugs, he has since been deposed by the aforementioned magma dragon, the Shumerix. So either way, as the players are going through this kind of city, trying to figure out where their next step is, they meet a scout named Pargil Longbraid, who is from the nearby city of Kovlar.
So this isn't alive?
Yes,
Individual?
an alive
Okay.
scout from
a live city.
Yes. In her patrols, they patrol the undead area.
Yeah.
Obviously, you want to keep tabs on what's happening. So she brings them back to the city of Kovlar. This is kind of an interesting, it's like a tiny settlement in the greater part of Sagarak as a huge underground city. So think of Absalom was an undead city, but then one little district of it was a living part of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there were previous dwarven explorations. They attempted to take back Sagarak, but realized that it'd be really hard and there'd be a ton of death, and the more people that die, the more undead. So it'd just be kind of a waste. They just ended up taking kind of a small part of it and establishing a city there.
Yep.
And it actually kind of worked out because they're not on the side where like the orcs would come through. So they're kind of like a nice little protected city. The undead kind of don't bother them that much. And then they don't really get attacked by orcs. So it works out. There's kind of like a little live in place, chilling.
You guys went to Sagarak in my campaign.
Oh, we did?
That was where Katie played that NPC.
Oh, I don't think I was there for that session. No.
I don't think I was there for that.
Yeah, it's fun.
Nice. Anyway, once you get there, you meet up with the Court of Regents. The Court of Regents are kind of the leaders of the Kovlar city.
Yeah.
They kind of explain that they're after the Scarlet Triad, the fact that they heard that the Sagarak is ruled by a magma dragon, or talking about the concerns of Dahak, like any of these things you talk about.
Yeah, back to Dahak again.
Yes, the court is greatly concerned by this. And some of them are like, well, can you handle this? Can you deal with the dragon or do something? Because, when it was just undead, they didn't bother us, but like dragons are notoriously great at not wanting to expand their territories.
Sure.
But not all the members of the court are quick to trust a bunch of outsiders who just popped in through a tunnel.
Yep.
So you now have to do a bunch of stuff to get the group to trust you. So this is kind of the way to introduce the influence mechanic of Pathfinder 2.
Okay.
And so this whole thing, again, is kind of like you're doing all this and it's like, wait, what are we doing here? This very, where everybody else, all the other kind of books seem to be kind of tied in. This one just kind of seems to be a little outlier. It's like, okay, we're talking with a bunch of dwarves. We're in a city. What are we doing here? But here you have to do a bunch of different tasks around the city to gain more trust and influence.
Deliver cabbages.
Yeah. And of course, as things are happening around the city, kind of like when they were in Ravenel or in Kintargo, the Triad is sowing chaos to try to keep their situation, their whole dealings under wraps and whatnot, because they're still working in here. There's also other mysteries to uncover and even some corrupt officials that you find out. But, we're not going to get too much into the details of what all you need to do, but a lot of different things. So one of the things they start hearing about as they're doing things around the city is a kind of troubling place in Kovlar. They hear about a place called the Hidden Forge, which is a temple to Droskar.
Oh.
Remember him?
The underworld, underdark dude.
Bad dwarf.
Bad dwarf.
Bad dwarf god.
The anti-Torag.
Yes. Anti-Torag, yes.
Yes. The worshipped by the Duergar.
Yes.
There it is.
And is the deity that created the Duergar.
Yes.
Once they kind of find out where this hidden forge is, they go to it and they realize that the Triad has been using this temple as well as some other hidden entries and exits into the Darklands and elsewhere to sneak in and out of the city to kind of sow their chaos.
Those jerks.
Right. They also find out that the rest of the Triad keep a camp in Sagarak itself.
Okay.
Yeah. Then you have to go work your way into Sagarak.
Of course.
Because of course you do.
You have to deal with it.
You have to deal with it. Of course. This is still the continuation of the job in the city or the Call of Heroes. So once they make it into Sagarak, they start exploring and eventually they're approached by a representative of the old King Harl.
Okay.
So they meet with the undead king. He's still in his his throne room, but he's lost his crown because it got taken by Vishumurix. And
can you take a ghost crown?
I was going to ask the same question.
It's kind of like it, in this case, like the ghost is there and the crown is physical.
Okay.
So it's like a physical
object
binding, keeping the ghost kind of there. So he's trying to figure out ways to get rid of the dragon from his city. And he also knows, and he kind of tells the players that, hey, if the dragon's left unchecked, they're going to expand their territory into Kovlar, into the Darklands, and possibly beyond. So they need to be taken care of.
Enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah, exactly. And so, he'll actually be kind of helpful, depending on how they want to infiltrate the lair. With all the tips and tricks of how to infiltrate the base, they once again have to go through another camp of Duergar and Scarlet Triad agents. So another, like anything else.
Their network is enormous.
It is. They're really good at networking. They have a lot of good...
you would think a higher level character would have taken care of this already.
This is Team Rocket levels of they're everywhere.
It kind of is. You're just like, wait, they're here too? So they end up fighting their way through all of that, and they end up meeting Ilsra, Ilssrah, Ilsra Embermead, who is the second in command of the Scarlet Triad. So she's been working to make deals with the Duergar to improve the Triad slave trade. So she came here, which I'm like, okay, that's business sound. They're pretty big on that. So, but then she's also been trying to make deals with Vishumurix themselves to gain more shards to a great artifact.
Okay.
To be used by the Triad. So basically you go in, you fight. So you take out Embermead,
Okay.
and she drops, as part of her person, the guiding chisel, which is the next portal key.
Oh,
Of course.
So,
convenient.
yes, with the triad person out of the way, the next step, the final part of the book, is confronting Vishumarex themselves in their lair. So you basically...
But you could conceivably just bugger off at that point.
You theoretically could. Like,
Yeah, but the Ghost King asked you to get his crown back.
You trust in a Ghost King?
I don't know. Maybe he had a really empathetic plea to us, and we were like, okay. It was like in Lord of the Rings, in Return of the King, when Aragorn is
It's
like,
true.
yeah, okay,
Yeah.
I'll
It
help
kind
the
of is,
Ghost
like-
Kingdom.
I
Okay.
was getting that kind of vibes, like, when reading through this. It's like, oh, he's not malevolent. He's just like, this is my kingdom. These are my people.
Sure.
Don't
Okay.
bug us.
Okay.
Like, let us do our thing.
Gosh, what a great scene from Lord of the Rings.
It is
Right.
a good scene.
So you do end up fighting with Shumerix, and once defeated, they claim that even though they've been defeated, the fury of Dahak will still prevail in the end.
Mm.
Bum, bum, bum.
Okay.
Right? And so having taken care of Vishumerix and the Scarlet Triad in the area, the people of Kovlar are relatively safe again, and the players are given full citizenship to the city.
Oh. Thanks.
Woo, a work visa.
Yeah. So the part of this, and rereading it, I partially misread what happened at the beginning. So like when I was originally
Gonna run it.
like going through the adventure, in my originally I thought that the head, like the Embermead, Ilstra Embermead, had already left the city.
Mm.
Like
Oh,
at the beginning
okay.
before
Yeah,
because there's a point where it says like Embermead has already made the deal
yeah.
and has shipped off
Mhm.
the artifact to the Triad at the beginning of this adventure before the PCs get there.
Mm.
And so like I read it wrong and I'm like, wait, she's not even there? Like
Mhm.
what was the point of this entire book?
Yeah.
But I still kind of feel that way to an extent
Yeah, I
because
still
it's
don't
like
feel very strongly connected to the events of this book.
yeah.
you get all the way through it, and you're like, cool, I've got another key.
Yeah.
Dahak.
And like it turns
Dahak!
yeah, like I understand the like, oh, Triad's trying to meet with the Duergar. Okay. They try to expand their slave trade. I get that. Like, trying to get dealing with this dragon who worships Dahak to try to get this artifact shard. Like, okay, I guess that kind of makes sense. The whole like Kovlar section, apparently she was trying to like put kind of a figurehead who supports the Triad in there, and that's one of the corrupt officials you find out throughout the thing. But still, it is one of those things where you're just kind of like, okay, that seems like a weird side quest.
Mm-hmm.
But good news is we're on to book 5.
Okay.
Woo!
Moving this train along.
So book 5, Against the Scarlet Triad.
We're going to do it.
Oh my
gonna do it.
gosh.
Yes. So you go through yet another gate.
What level are we at this point?
You're probably
Yeah,
14, 15?
Yeah, you're
Okay.
like in book 5, you're probably like 14, 15, and you'll probably
18
go
by the end of it.
Yeah.
18
All
by
right,
the
so-
end, then you'll go 18 to 20 in the last.
So it's reasonable that we're taking on Team Rocket at this point.
Yeah, you're fighting Giovanni.
We've got some
Soon.
gym badges,
Uh-huh, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So you go through another gate. You end up. This one's kind of funny. You end up on after coming out of the gate on the other side, like it had fallen down. So like the gate was still there and magical, but it like fallen in.
Do you
a
just
desert.
jump into it
So
like
you-
it's a pool?
So you like pop out
Oh.
of it,
I
and you
love
like
that.
pop out at a weird angle. So you walk through it and then like fall into a sand dune.
Kind of love that.
Yeah.
Nice.
So you end up near a town called Finder Plain. Literally
Sure.
the words Finder Plane, like airplane.
Sure.
Airplane or like plane of exist? Oh, no.
Oh, well,
Like obviously there's no airplanes, but like plane of existence.
yeah.
You end up on a Boeing
I was like,
737.
wait, what now?
I'm like, plane. Oh, that works.
Do we have airplanes?
Airplanes. Finder Plane, which is in Gnome City, and it's currently being ravaged by a dust storm.
Oh no.
Okay.
So
The
you,
Dust Bowl.
Close the doors.
right? So you go in, you help out, and you find out that like this city is kind of a place for explorers. People who live there don't live there long, and then more people come in, and it's just kind of like I think one thing they noted was if you are like if you leave a building abandoned for a month, it's fair game. Like
Oh, man. Okay.
so people just move in and
Strong
move out.
squatters' rights.
So
Okay.
yeah, so it's a big squatters' rights area, but kind of a good trade hub, and people hang out, mostly gnomes. So you help out, only to find out that the Scarlet Triad has kidnapped one of the proprietors.
How dare they?
And they point you towards Katapesh.
Okay.
To help them. So, a Tyler note here. Again, you kind of know that the Scarlet Triad works out of Katapesh. So, like...
I was going to say, we've heard this name before.
Yeah, so, like, Katapesh is not new.
Okay.
So, like, it's the second time, kind of like with Kintargo, where it's like, oh, you need to go to this place. And then on the way to that place, you find another place that tells you to go to that place.
Repetition's important.
I know. It just...
They're really giving you the arrows in the background, like, bing, bing, bing,
Yeah.
go this way.
You're like, stop here. Also go there. And you're like, we were going there. It's
You got to
like,
give the clue 3 times because they might miss it the first 2.
True. So we get to Katapesh,
Mhm.
the home base of the Scarlet Triad.
Finally.
So you get there, and unfortunately, they have deep ties with the Pact Masters, which are the rulers of Katapesh.
Okay.
And they also have deep allies with the guilds in the area.
Okay.
So this book is basically run in downtime almost.
Oh, God.
Okay.
And
Sure.
you have an entire month to kind of convince the guilds that the Scarlet Triad is like evil.
Oh, geez.
And like they actually really suck.
Okay.
Diplomacy.
Yeah. And so there are actually a lot of different downtime activities. You can host parties, you can influence guilds, you can research Triad. So it actually did seem kind of cool.
It's
Like
a menu.
yeah, there's like a menu of like different things you can do.
Okay.
And I kind of like the idea of like, hosting parties to get to kind of like rub shoulders with the elite and be like, hey, these people actually suck. And then kind of like in the last one, there are some events that happen and like you're sent on tasks and stuff for each guilds. They have a whole list of guilds, one of which was the Aspis Consortium,
Hey.
which we're going to talk about. But yeah, like all the different guilds. And then some of the events are of higher importance than others.
Sure.
One of which is rescuing a leader of the Jewelers Guild.
Got that money.
We need jewelry.
Yes. So the leader of the Jewelers Guild has gone missing.
Is that the person that was stolen from the Gnome City, or is it a different person?
No, different person.
Oh, did we find out what
People
happened to
going
the
missing.
gnome dude?
Oh, I think so.
Just leave this hanging. They're like, hey, go find this dude. They took him. And we're like, yeah, we got there. We got bigger things to do.
Yeah, I think you find him eventually once you like...
Start doing stuff.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about him in the next book.
Oh my gosh. He was our plot.
I know.
Point.
I was reading about it. I'm like, wait, what happened to him? Well, I was
It's
reading
just a
through-
look into Tyler reading this book, though. It's like, oh, whatever. We're going
Well, I
Katapesh.
mean, that's fair if it's like written as like, hey, these are just all things to get you to a place where then we want you to do something else.
Yeah, it's like, surprise, you have another thing to do.
yeah.
Now I'm curious. I'll have to go back and read that. So Katapesh is interesting and weird because it's technically legal to own slaves in Katapesh.
Cool.
And there's a lot of business that runs through slavery in Katapesh.
So you're
Great.
like fighting an uphill battle to get people to kick out the Scarlet
Yeah.
Triad.
But they also need to make sure like people feel relatively safe in the city and like they don't want to have people worry that, they're going to be taken at any point.
Sure.
So in the city itself, it's illegal to be taken as a slave within the walls. It's like if you're
Okay.
in the city, you are good. However, the Triad has basically like gotten in and bribed the Pact Masters to kind of like turn a blind eye when they need to take out like a political rival and stuff. So they'll like, just slip the Pact Masters some money and then
And
in
that
the
person
past,
disappears.
yeah, and that person disappears. And it's like, okay, kind of shady, technically illegal, but like
I mean, not technically, definitely.
definitely illegal, but like whatever. But in the case of the Jewelers Guild leader named Exavisu Kerndalian
Oh boy.
Man.
has been taken by the Triad, and how they did this is they basically waited until she was coming back from a business trip and ambushed and enslaved her several miles outside of the city.
That's just
So,
rude.
Technically legal in this
And
case.
then made sure all the legal paperwork was in order once they got back and bribed anyone who actually might care to look the other way.
Wow. Ouch.
Which,
Ladies can't go to work without getting hijacked.
Yeah, which I don't know.
Rude.
Seems kind of like a shitty loophole to be like, you can't take slaves in the city walls, but if you take somebody right outside the city
Yeah,
walls,
it's a really gross rule.
you can bring them all in. It's fine. Like, I'm sure there was some, obviously there was some bribery and stuff because that's still shady, but whatever. So this task introduces the heist mechanics into the game.
Okay.
You can't just kick in the door and, rescue her. You have to like infiltrate
It's so unfortunate
out.
because we're all so good at just kicking indoors with
Yeah.
no strategy.
Yeah, the problem with attacking, it's like mentioned very at the beginning, like you can't just run in and just start fighting the Triad because they're a protected guild. Like attacking one of the guilds
It's
in Katapesh
illegal.
is attacking the city,
Jeez.
basically. So
There are
like,
so many rules.
yeah, so you can't just go and be like, we fight you, Scarlet Triad, and they're like, the entire city is like against you now.
Sure.
Also, like this, you gotta kind of.
So we're sneaking into Silphco and Cerulean City.
Yep. So, ooh, man, Pokemon reference again. I like it.
I'm glad that
Yes.
that's our theme for this episode.
So once the party goes through, you have like your information gathering, your infiltration, your rescue, and your extraction of Exivisu. You find out that the head of the Triad, Yuri Zandivar.
Yuri.
Uri? U-R-I? Would that be Yuri or
Yuri.
Uri? I think Uri.
Uri.
Zandivar had reached out to the Jewelers Guild
Uri.
to work on a secret project that he didn't explain. And when she refused, that's when the Triad kidnapped her and forced her to start working on it in secret.
Jeez.
I want to hire you for a project. You need to sign this NDA. I don't want to sign the NDA. Good, we're going to kidnap you.
Right? So she mentions that they took her to the Red Pyramid, the home base of the Scarlet Triad, somewhere deep underground in the base.
Sure.
Okay.
And had her work on repairing a strange orb made out of golden crystal, while tasking her with also fashioning any replacements for any missing sections. So at this point,
I know what this is.
the players can do some knowledge checks and tell by the description.
Is it? Oh, I think I know what it is too.
What is it?
No, it's the thing. It's the.
It
You
is.
have to be slightly more specific than poof.
I don't.
It is.
I don't remember what it is called exactly.
Yes, we're talking about the golden orb of dragonkind.
That's it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, which we know from earlier is an orb that can control dragons of the same color.
Yep.
In this case, gold. But as to why they wanted to control gold dragons is still a bit of a mystery at the moment.
Dun dun dun.
The plot thickens.
Yes.
I actually, for the first time, I'm actually very interested.
Yes. So, that's one of the part you kind of learn a little bit more of what the Triad's trying to do. So after a month of influencing all the rest of the guilds, doing all the other stuff, hopefully the PCs have successfully shown how crappy the Triad is, and that the next Council of Guilds, they gather and they take a vote on whether to revoke the special protections and boons the Triad have been extended. So basically, they make a vote, and assuming you've got enough rep, they revoke all the protections.
Okay.
So they can still operate in the city, but like attacking them is now attacking a private group of people.
You can kick in the door.
Aha!
Yes. So the time for subtlety has ended, and the time for door kicking has come.
Thank goodness.
So this is another kind of dungeony crawl section. I might have skimmed past it, but I assume this is where you find the other poor dude from Finder Plane.
Oh, sure.
But so we don't really get into the whole details of that. But at the end of it, you find and fight Uri Zandivar, who's the head of the Scarlet Triad, and finally cut off the organization from the top. Bum, bum, bum.
Finally.
Finally. So
You
head of
killed
the-
Giovanni.
Yes. Depending on whether you defeat him and interrogate him or kill him and then find out his like journals later, you finally get the information of how the Triad came to be and what their goals are.
Okay.
So it all starts with a gold dragon named Menkare.
Yes!
Oh no.
Yes! Let's go!
Yes. And a plan, a experiment called the Glorious Endeavor.
Oh boy.
Sure.
That doesn't sound good.
So Menkare works and is basically has an island on Hermia.
Uh-huh.
So spoiler, this is also going to be kind of a
That's the
bit of
Hermia.
a discussion about Hermia as a location. So the Glorious Endeavor needed a lot of like good people. He's been basically trying to make a utopia of like the best people, some like weird eugenic stuff.
Cool.
Okay, so the Glorious Endeavor is his plan for
Yes.
a fabulous place that he wants to live.
We
Yes.
will build a utopia.
Yes.
Okay.
So Menkare is trying to build a utopia with the best people in Galarian.
The best of the best.
And he realizes that he can't go and recruit all the people himself. That's just a lot for one dragon to do. So he created the Scarlet Triad
He needs a
jeez.
downline.
as a recruitment tool.
He needs a downline.
Oh my gosh.
For a long time, the Triad basically got his requirements of like what type of people he wants and would recruit people. Be like, hey, do you want to join this utopia?
Okay, so actual
And they
recruitment,
would
not-
actually ask them.
Not stealing people, like,
Yeah.
hey, you belong in Utopia. Let me just grab you out.
No,
of
they
the
Would
would
you
city."
like
actually-
to live in Utopia?
Yeah, for a while, the Triad was like, yes, actually.
Were they still called the
asking.
Scarlet
I say
Triad
terrible
then?
name.
I
terrible
think
Because
they
they
brand
were.
started with
It's
a baddie
terrible
kind of
brand
name.
Right? You couldn't have called the Golden Trio.
name. You'll be called the Scarlet Triad. That sounds kind of evil, sir.
It's all altruistic. Just don't worry about it. Yeah, so they'd recruit people. They would kind of give them to be part of Promise, which is the
Yeah.
city in Hermia. You have to basically sign a contract to be like,
You
I'm
live
going to
here
follow
now.
all the rules.
Yeah.
I give up all my rights. Menkare is like the end all be all of my
Oh, boy.
choices. Like he makes all the choices, who I date, like
Oh my
all-
gosh.
where I live,
Oh, yeah,
all
it's
this stuff.
bad.
Oh.
Yeah.
Or good, depending on your
I mean, if you
perspective, I
really
suppose.
don't like free will, it's like, great.
Yeah.
Here you go. It's
Yeah.
probably fine there.
So anyway, he created them as recruitment. They started recruiting a bunch of people. After a while, they kind of realized, oh, there are these people that we thought that we recruited, but they weren't good enough for Promise, but they're still really good people. So like they'd sell for a lot on the slave
Oh,
trade.
Oh,
man.
no.
So they kind of started a tiny side hustle
Oh.
to start selling slaves.
Oh.
And then as Promise grew, they needed less and less recruitment. So the Triad relied more and more on slaving.
We
to
got to
keep its
pivot.
coffers
We got to
full.
pivot
We
the
gotta-
business model.
Literally, they're like, we got to stay competitive in this market.
What's the time frame from like currently where we are in the adventure path to like when Menkare was starting to recruit people? Has it been 100 years? Has it been 10?
It's been maybe like 100. It's been a while. There's been several generations. So I think like somewhere between 100 to 150 years.
Okay.
That Promise has been like going.
Going.
I think Promise is in its like third generation of
Okay.
of like
So the
people.
Scarlet Triad has had a long time to build up the side
Yeah.
hustle and change leadership and
yeah,
all
which
that
is
stuff.
kind of
Okay.
why like they're everywhere
Yeah.
because they are deeply rooted.
Sure.
So, like I said, they've been kind of relying more and more on slaving to keep its coffers full. At this point, the problem they've had is that Menkare hates slavery. He is a gold dragon.
Sure.
He has some weird, like, good
Were they
genes
trying to build
thing.
the orb to like take him?
Yeah, so they were basically like, we can't keep like hiding the fact that
Oh
we
my
are
gosh, come on.
slavers, and like they're doing it pretty well. And Menkare doesn't care that much, or like hasn't.
He hasn't really noticed.
He
'cause
hasn't
he's got
really
his own thing
noticed,
going on.
But like, if they find out, like they're screwed. Because like if Menkare finds out, the Triad is screwed. So their whole thing is like, well, if we get this orb of dragonkind, we can use that to leverage against Menkare.
Oy vey.
I can mind control my boss.
Really, and they want to control Menkare and like not have him deal with this, but also make Promise a central hub of the Scarlet Triad
Oh,
Great.
jeez.
Cool.
for reasons which we'll get to in a second. So their backup plan, which
Okay.
is terrible, is basically like they want to release Dahak as a way to check Menkare and be like, we have something just as powerful. Don't make us use it. What? But
That's not a good plan.
it's a terrible plan.
So we have the evil god dragon, and that's what we're gonna do,
Yeah, but there's like no mention of how they're going to control it. They're just like,
right?
we're going to
Wait.
unleash this thing. So like, don't mess with us.
So don't mess with us, or we'll nuke everyone.
yeah.
Because
Cool.
Dahak is deity level.
Dahak is deity level.
Okay.
They only wanted to deal with like the manifestation of Dahak, which is not deity
As
level, but
intense?
like still pretty epic level, like
yeah.
Yeah.
20
Still gonna
plus.
mess you up.
Yeah. So that's their backup plan. If like the orb of dragonkind to control Menkare doesn't work, they're like, screw it, we're just gonna blow up everything.
Jeez.
That's not a good plan.
Yeah, not a great plan. I mean, they're a bunch of dumb slavers.
Uri,
Like, what do you
come
expect?
on, buddy.
Yeah.
Come on, I expect better from someone whose name is Uri.
You also find out through these journals that the orb has been completed in the
Oh,
meantime
Good.
and is on its
Oh.
way to Promise with Uri's sister.
What's her name?
Jury.
It's not mentioned
What?
in the
Uh-oh.
notes. Just it doesn't even mention. It just mentions orb and sister. Like,
My
I'm
sister.
like,
My
does that
sister.
mean that she comes up later and then it's like a big reveal, like she's somebody we know, and then we're like, you were your
Surprise.
sister all along?
it was Sam's character.
Whoa, that would be a twist.
So she's already on her way to Promise to threaten Minkare and, like I said, make a new base. And then the main reason is they want to use Alcetta's ring as kind of like a hub of transport, because
Well,
Oh, okay.
The last gate-
Yeah.
called the Venge Gate
Uh-oh.
leads directly to Promise.
See who
Of
names
course
these things?
it
Come on.
does.
Yes.
And also, why does it lead directly to Promise?
For reasons.
Convenient plot reasons, or are they actually going to explain that?
They rewired it.
It's
It's like
Because I'm
it's like your
like-
wireless fan when you have to like recalibrate it.
Originally, the gate went to Hermia
Okay.
before Promise was a thing, because
Okay.
Minkare lived in Hermia before Promise
Right.
was
Yeah,
created.
okay, so-
And I think it, like, the creator, I'm not exactly sure why they went to each spot, but it was like in this part of the world, in this part of the
Okay,
world, in this part
alright.
of the world.
Plausible deniability.
Yeah.
I'll give it to him.
Yeah. So it wasn't that, like, again, plot, it worked out. Unplot, like, it was there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I'll take
Um,
it.
So at the end of the book, the Triad in Katapesh collapses. The Packmasters give everybody like a ring of acknowledgement, like, good job. And they're free to head back to the
A
Citadel
gold star.
for the final book. Yes.
Okay. We have a bad or good. No, not even bad. Just like we gotta go kill Ori's sister.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
We're
Okay.
gonna sink her boat.
Yeah.
Gonna go sink that boat. So, book 6, Broken Promises.
Uh-oh.
Heyo, there's a pun in there. So, book 6, Broken Promises. Pun. Pew, pew, pew. Because you're going to Promise.
Oh yeah. Okay, got it. Didn't click.
It only clicked after you were like, it's a pun. And I was like, is it? Oh, it is.
Heyo.
Okay,
Just
fine.
mentioned it. The players activate the final Ayudara, the Venge Gate.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, with all of the Ayudara fully online,
Uh-huh.
Dahak takes advantage of this fully powered ring to unleash a dragon storm on the Citadel and Breachel. He basically uses this point as the
The Nexus.
as the veil between planes has been thinning as you guys have been going through the gate
Uh-huh.
and activating all the gates. He basically uses this to, like,
Why does he care?
so he is trying to get out.
I
Okay.
assumed he was trapped. for
His
some
whole
reason.
thing, he is trapped and he is trying to get out.
Okay.
So he, in this point, manifests a dragon storm.
Okay.
So dragon storm is not like a Sharknado where there's a bunch of dragons
That would
just in a
be
tornado.
awesome.
That's disappointing, but okay.
They are huge storms that are full of the different elements of the dragons.
Still
So, like,
awful.
Yeah, still awful. So lightning and
But difficult-
acid
more difficult
and
to
fire
fight?
and whatever. Yeah.
Less weird to like walk out your porch and be like, there's dragons spinning around in a tornado.
Yes.
But okay.
So this book is kind of cool the entire way through. I'm like, this is a cool book, which makes me annoyed that it takes so long to, like, get there. But it's a finale. So the dragon storm and kind of this, like, big chaos that erupts in the Citadel and Breachel happens in 3 waves.
Ew.
Great.
So there are the next step at this point, the players are just trying to fight back all the waves of chaos and then
Survive.
also keep people in Breachel from dying.
How do they get to Breachel? So I thought we were popping through a gate to go to Hermia.
Well, we turned it on.
So you turned on the gate and then it pops out of Alcetta's ring.
And we know where it goes to?
We are in.
You are in
Alcetta's ring,
Alcetta's ring.
which
and
is right next door to
okay.
Breachel.
So you activate the gate.
Right.
He is using the ring of gates
Okay.
to cause chaos where the ring is. So you
Okay.
have not gone through the gate to the next
Oh,
We're
one.
still at home.
You're still at home.
Okay.
You have just activated the portal.
Okay, we
which
turned it
caused
on.
You turned
and
it
then
on.
this whole thing popped out of this.
Yes.
We have
Okay.
Dragonstorm at home.
We have
Okay, gotcha.
Can have Dragonstorm elsewhere. We have Dragonstorm at home. So they have, at some point, they have, like, fire giants get spawned. They have lightning strikes. They have buildings on fire. They have, like, all kinds of crazy things happening, and the players are running around, like, trying to save people. There are, like, chances to fight creatures. There are chances to, like, rally citizens and, like, get them to kind of help each other,
Yeah.
because otherwise it's just all chaotic. it's at this point where if you have upgraded your defenses on your citadel as part of the base building mechanic, they help make the checks easier for the waves.
It comes back.
Yes.
Or if you were like, we forgot we had a base because we've been to 50 million other places on the world.
Which is kind of my rant about this.
Yeah.
You get, in book 1, you take ownership of the citadel and you can upgrade it, but you're literally never in town to use it.
Until book 6.
And the payoff of these happens in book 6, yes.
It's also probably a threat that you are not remotely anticipating.
Yeah. Like,
Well, in some, I can't remember all of those mechanics, but like some amount, like you have to like get things started when you're there. It's not like you can just decide like we're in the Milwaukee Expanse, but like, can we like upgrade our citadel?
I'd like better arrow slits.
Right.
Like what?
Theoretically, like throughout this book and in between adventures, like you should have time for downtime.
Yeah.
But like, so you could feasibly like, after you get back from the Milwaukee, you can spend some time like on the Citadel and stuff. But like, there's really not much reason to until the end, which is kind of
fair.
weird. Honestly, like, I think what would have been cool is if like there were occasional sieges on the Citadel based on where you were. Like, if you hadn't taken care of the Cinder Claws yet, you might have a siege of them once a month. If you hadn't taken care of the Triad yet, you might get attacked from like...
That could be cool.
Yeah. So like ways to kind of like keep it there that would then foreshadow this whole thing rather than it just be like gate, Dragonstorm.
Yeah.
Anyway, tiny rant. If I would have done this differently. When
I like the rant part.
But yeah, I mean, so based on how well you do during the checks, like it's either you succeed enough, and it's kind of like victory point system here.
Yeah.
So like based on each action, you're doing your checks. If you get enough successes, you get victory points, whatever. So like there is a world where like, oh, you save everybody. There's like no casualties, very minimal damage, and you're fine. If you get just enough checks and don't like crit succeed on everything, then it's like there are some casualties, but like it's relatively still around.
Yeah, it's on the scale.
And then there's like most people die, or like a ton of people die, and the players are injured, and the city's gone, and the citadel's in ruins. Like,
cool.
Yikes.
Like, and it will take months to build back up. So like there are levels of...
I feel like if our group had continued, that would have been us because we did nothing with the Citadel when we left. We made a brewery, which I don't think was probably an upgrade, or we made a distillery. Again, not sure that would have been helpful in defense.
Yes. So anyway, cool, super cool area, or like super cool event. Dragonstorm, fight that back. Just a little late, you know.
Yeah.
You finally get back down to the Venge Gate. You go through the way station. This one's dedicated to Callistria.
Heyo.
Ooh, that makes sense, Venge.
Kind of fitting name with the Venge,
Okay.
the Vengeance Gate.
I also feel like if my whole town was like messed up, I wouldn't be like, cool, I'll just keep going through this gate. Like,
yeah,
that's also a weird transition. Like, oh, we were supposed to protect our town and didn't, and now it needs a lot of help. Guess we'll leave.
I vaguely get like the vengeance murder lust if like it goes wrong.
Yeah.
Like Avengers style of like, if we can't save the Earth, we're certainly going to avenge it.
But I guess at this point, do you know that it's Dahak that has released the storm? Like, that's the weird part, is it's like, okay, so there's Dahak, and then there's the Triad that wants to use Dahak, but then you have this plot mechanic of the Triad's over here trying to mess with a different dragon. So if Dahak messes with your town, is it even revenge if you're going after the Triad?
Maybe you want to kill somebody.
So we'll get to it a little bit, but like this is kind of the point where like there are a lot of threads that tie everything, but like the players don't know that.
Yeah,
so it's
I
like,
hate that.
So it's like, yeah, to your point, you're like, wait a second, we're going to deal with the Orb of Dragonkind and Menkare. Dahak just attacked my town. Like, will fighting Menkare, like, we'll go into...
Almost seems like I would like go and find Menkare and be like, yo,
help me
this
out.
Dahak dude is like, not cool.
Yeah. So anyway, you end up going through the Venge Gate and ending up in Hermia.
Cool.
And you land, the gate opens up in what is effectively a dragon's lair.
Great.
And you explore it. As you explore it, it turns out it is Menkare's lair.
What's up, buddy?
hey.
And there is a ton of treasure.
I mean,
everywhere.
He's
a gold dragon. He's got a huge hoard. You can take it if you want.
Well,
if you want to steal from
that's a bad idea.
a gold dragon, it's possible. You do what you do. You as you exit the lair. So the lair is not in Promise proper, but it's like
Yeah, it says
Close, yeah. You're greeted by Emeliza of Hermia, who introduces herself as the High Counselor of the Council of Enlightenment.
Okay.
And the Council of Enlightenment in Promise is basically the kind of day-to-day rulers of Hermia that are put in power by Menkare.
They're
Like,
municipal leaders.
yeah. Like, he's the ruler, but like he gives a lot of day-to-day stuff to the council.
He delegates. Good
He
leader.
delegates. Good leader. Scarlet Triad, Council of Enlightenment.
Well, 50-50.
Yeah.
One
for
of
two.
these sounds like good guys. One of them sounds like bad
Or
guys.
1 for 2.
Yes. So it turns out that the players activating the final gate and unleashing the chaos caught the attention of Menkare, and he thought that Dahak was showing up. So he's like, I gotta go prep. I have like a contingency plan. You watch the gate. And like, you watch the portal and see what happens.
Okay, yeah.
Reasonable.
Yeah.
Again,
So
I feel like at this point I'd be like, we need to find Menkare
yeah.
and
Help
be like,
us out,
hey,
bro."
buddy.
So at the
Yeah.
point, he's gone. And so you're talking to her. She's happy to answer any questions. You know, if they talk through all the stuff that's going on with the orb and the triad, she's kind of like shocked about it.
Yeah.
And kind of talking through more, she kind of explains like, yeah, Menkare has been a little bit suspicious lately. Like,
Okay, yeah.
you know, she's like totally not sure what's going on there, but like maybe you could go check it out and like go to the Citadel and that he lives and like try to find out what his plans are, because I'm now concerned.
Sure. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. What may or may not be a spoiler, like you may find out later or earlier, but for the sake of this story, if you do any amount of sense motive during all this, you find out that she is acting very suspicious as well.
Okay. I was going to say, like, why doesn't she just go?
Yeah.
Don't be suspicious.
Hello, I'm the
Don't
mayor.
be suspicious.
Oh, man, a
Don't
bunch
be-
of weird stuff is happening.
Yeah.
You better go check that
Yeah,
out.
basically, like, she's like, oh, no, the orb, I haven't heard of that. Like,
Uh-oh.
that seems...
Oh my gosh, she's not really the mayor. She's the sister.
So,
Does Sam get it?
she's
I get
both.
it.
She's
The
both.
mayor and the sister?
She is the sister. So, she is Emeliza Zandivar,
Oh, snap.
but she's also the High Counselor of...
Oh, so it wasn't like she was going there. She was already there?
Yeah.
Okay.
What a plant.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So,
It's rotten from the bottom.
it is.
Terrible.
So, yeah. So, basically, it turns out she is actually part of the Scarlet Triad.
should
And
Kill
that's
her.
why we didn't say her name.
Yes. Yeah. And so there is like, you know, based on the questions answer, you can do like sense motive and be like, you seem a little suspect there. But there is actually a world where you don't pick up on that, and you can like continue to just help her along the way.
That would be our party right now.
It
okay,
really would
no
be.
further questions.
No further questions.
I like to think I would have further questions. Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. So it kind of depends. But yeah, so if you manage to take her out there, then like you don't have to worry about her anymore.
Oh, you can just like fight her there.
You can fight her there.
Okay,
She
cool.
will try to retreat. If you like chase her down, you can like take her out. If like you let her go or
She
join
escapes.
her, there's like a chance that stuff goes down later.
Okay. I like this mechanic. Okay.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool. You're like, you know, it's,
It's a broken promise.
hey,
Dun, dun, dun.
so yeah, assuming you get taken care of,
Yeah.
you then go into Promise farther in, and you can kind of like explore around. So there's different places you can go. Everyone's super friendly. It's a utopia. Everyone's super chill, super friendly. Guards are super nice. You can get like little visitor badges to let
Cool.
you in and out. Like you didn't sign away your life, so you're just kind of like hanging out, vibing.
Cool.
I'd like some sweet souvenirs.
Yeah.
Cool.
Not long after arriving, they're met by the head of the Promise Guard, Inisra Arumello.
Cool. Are you like, hey, I killed your mayor?
Well, maybe.
Your mayor was parading as someone else.
Yeah. So as you talk to her, she has become jaded with the glorious endeavor.
Ew.
Okay.
And, you know, she kind of looks around and has kind of realized that like everyone's needs are taken care of, but they're also kind of livestock. Like they don't have
Yeah.
they don't have any freedom or choice or whatever.
Yep.
So like she thinks there is something more like there is suspicious going on. She also thinks that someone in the Enlightenment Council might have ulterior motives.
What?
Hey, I killed your mayor.
So this could be another thing if like you haven't looked in, like if you haven't figured out
Yeah,
that
yeah.
That would be
Emeliza
another
is
clue.
like evil. You're the head of the Promise Guards. Like the Enlightenment Council seems suspect as well.
Yeah.
So there's a chance there. But kind of one of the things that kind of pushed her over the edge of like not doing the glorious endeavor, not being down with that, is that she needs someone to investigate the disappearance of a man named Jonavar.
Jonavar.
Oh my god, another side quest? Ugh.
Yeah. Who was
Just let us talk to the boss man.
right? Who was an elven scholar from the Mwangi jungle. She explains that he was recruited as an expert on elven magic, and then her and him became good friends, and then slightly more than friends.
Mm-hmm.
And she tried to break it off because she was under the contract and was like, I
can't date without my daddy dragon's permission.
Literally that. She's like, it's,
Dad will find out about us.
She's like, I still trust in the process. She's like, I trust the process. I'm not going to do this. And he was like, no, that's stupid. Like, we love each other. Let's
run away with me.
So once he was done with his research, they were going to go back to the Mwangi together. And then he has since disappeared.
Daddy Dragon found out.
Right.
And he says,
She doesn't know where he was taken or where specifically.
Girl, you know.
She learns that his area of expertise was a very specific type of ritual called the Anima Invocation.
Uh-huh.
An ancient ritual that was used to destroy a great evil.
Oh boy.
Great.
So she thinks that the Golden Citadel might be the best possible place to go while Menkare is away and look for Jonavar, as well as figure out Menkare's true plans.
Okay.
So kind of similar. Like there, in this case, you could, if you hadn't figured out Emiliza's stuff, you could ally with her, and they both kind of point you towards the Citadel.
Yeah.
So the Golden Citadel, kind of like the centerpiece of Promise, is the crown jewel of the perfect city, and it was the first building created, and it's kind of like the big old government building where all the things happen.
Aridin would love this.
What?
Aridin would love this.
Right. While the PCs have visitor badges, they still need to make sure they aren't too suspicious. So there's a whole mechanic on navigating the Citadel without raising too many alarms.
Okay, yeah.
Because you're trying to infiltrate, but you're kind of allowed to be there, but kind of not allowed to be there. Yeah. So you can get busted for it. So there's some exploring happening throughout the Citadel. So they eventually find Jonavar in a small room that is modest accommodations, but you kind of realize this might be a prison.
I was saying, it sounds like a prison cell.
Yes.
Awkward.
So as you're talking to him, you realize what this Anima Invocation is. So he was recruited for his knowledge on this, and in exchange, Menkare offered to let him research the Ayudara.
Okay.
And study the Elf Gates. So it wasn't until he was pushed more and more towards the invocation rather than the Elf Gates, Menkare's like, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? What do you think about all this stuff? You kind of realize what the actual truth of what's happening in Hermia. So here's the main reason why I didn't want to do a separate episode on Hermia, because you can't really talk about it without the
baggage.
The baggage.
Sure.
So remember the spell that the Akuje used to fight Dahak when they sacrificed their souls to empower their weapons to seal him back.
Oh boy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so guess who found out also about this ritual? Menkare.
What's he want to do with it?
So, Menkare, we go kind of back to Hermia and the Bench Gate, how it was there. Menkare stumbled upon it because he was just living in Hermia. This is way before Promise.
Yeah.
He stumbled upon this gate and was like, ooh, that's interesting. Let's research it. So as he's researching Alcetta's ring, he learned about it, and he learned that Dahak's manifestation is trapped in the ring.
Okay.
Trying to get out.
I remember that. Yep.
Yeah. He's like, oh no, the manifestation's still there. How did it get there? And what happens if it gets out? So he found out that the last time it got sealed was the Akuje, when they sacrificed their souls using the Anima Invocation. Mm-hmm. And Menkare's like, I'm a gold dragon. I'm very smart. I think that they didn't fully destroy the manifestation because their souls weren't strong enough.
Uh-oh.
That was perfect.
Oh no. Did he make the utopia
batteries?
No,
are they batteries?
Souls?
Are they all batteries?
No, they are sheeps.
Sheeple, wake up, people.
So knowing that
Promise is Soylent Green.
So knowing that there's a chance that Dahak could one day get out, he decided to attempt to build up his own group of people with the strongest souls possible to push Dahak back for good. So the whole idea of Promise is to create strong enough souls for him to one day sacrifice to destroy Dahak.
But that wasn't in the contract.
Yeah.
It was in the fine print. It was just like the super duper duper tiny one. Yeah.
So Jonavar mentions that unfortunately, after kind of researching and figuring out that what he's trying to do with Promise, he says, like, the invocation only works when the souls are willing.
Okay.
So, like, if they are unaware, this could backfire.
Oh.
And, like, he has tried to tell Menkara that, and he has refused to listen.
Aw, man.
Hey, boss.
Slight problem with your plan.
So he's like, no, this is not actually going to work. They need to be willing souls. Like, you might just kill a bunch of people.
You would think if it's that important to him that he created a whole utopia, he would be like,
hey, everyone.
I don't want to screw this up.
Yeah.
Or he'd be like, hello, my utopia. I have a big problem.
Yes, a calling for all of you to face down a great evil.
this
There
seems-
are ways to swing
This seems solvable. Menkara could hire us.
Yes.
Yes,
We could
and
fix
he
this.
could just have probably a good diplomacy check. Come on, buddy.
Okay. This is a great time. We're not done with the adventure yet, but this is a great time to reveal, like, the ultimate twist that's been
Oh,
tying with us
please.
the
The
whole
ultimate
time.
evil.
There's another one.
It's not the ultimate evil,
Well, the twist.
but it's a twist. That's the whole time. Turns out that Promise 1.0 is Breachel.
Oh, snap.
Okay.
So way back at 4520,
Oh, boy.
Which makes sense because the Aodar is already
the
there.
amnesiacs showed up because Menkare wiped all their memories after trying to start up his glorious endeavor. But at the time, he told everybody what they were doing. So he told everybody the plan.
Oh.
And so he started recruiting people, like altruistic people, to sacrifice themselves for the greater good. And then after a while, they were like, we don't want to do that. And like, he could not get enough people to do it, to sacrifice themselves.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
he was like, oh, this isn't going to work if they know the plan. So I need to just start over, but they can't know what I'm doing. So I'm just going to wipe all of their memories, drop them off, and peace out.
Was he the original Breachel, or was that an actual?
Yeah.
Was
So
he? Okay.
after realizing that he
Oh.
left a bunch of people to die, he's like, well, I do feel a little bad about that.
Let me give them farming equipment.
I
Okay.
will sacrifice you, but I don't want to just leave you to die of your own devices. So he showed up as Lord Lamont Breachton
Oh,
and
or that's right, Breachton.
brought them up and saved them and got them on their way, and then went off
And
to
then
like
peaced out?
set up Promise.
Oh, Lamont.
Okay.
Yes. So, yeah, the plan of telling people to sacrifice themselves. He tried it to his
Damn
credit.
it! Why not reveal some of this earlier?
Right?
Damn it!
I knew this in the first chapter of the first book.
Yeah.
That's
Like,
so
as
dumb.
a GM, I knew this from the get-go, and it's so annoying not to know that as a player.
Yeah.
Like,
Oy.
because, yeah, like, it tied, and the anima invocation being tied to the Akuje is super cool, but, like, you don't know that.
Yeah.
Like, it's
It's like all the plot threads kind of pull together.
yeah, they all kind of tie together, but you don't know that until, like, beginning of book 6.
Yeah.
Which you're like, okay,
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
back in. So, realizing that it could backfire, he does posit that there might be a way to change the invocation to empower souls without sacrificing them.
Okay.
So there's a possible way to take strong souls, empower them further by altering the invocation a little bit, that who can then fight Dahak one-on-one without like sacrificing. So he says he'd either need your help as the players or Menkare's, because he doesn't have all the information about what Menkare is planning and like his research, so he might
Yeah.
need some more there.
Yeah.
So this all kind of happens over the course of 3 days. At the end of 3 days, Menkare pops back in to Promise, expecting it to be overrun by Dahak.
Oh,
Because he thought that's
He
who
thought
was
he
coming through the
he
Venge
was
And
Gate.
he's
showing
like,
up.
oh.
Yeah, so he's like, oh,
Just kidding.
this is a delight surprise. And it's also these same people who like kept the manifestation at bay by feeling with the dragon storm. I got to talk to these people. So he talks to you guys. And after he kind of hears your adventures, all the things you've gone through, the triad, the whatever,
Is he like, I did it. I
like
figured it out.
he like it, depending on whether you bring up the anima invocation or not, he's kind of like realizes like, oh, you guys are here to stop me, aren't you? Like
Okay.
he kind of like, oh yeah, but trust me, I know what I'm doing. He's like, I've done all the research, I've considered all possible solutions. This is the one result that'll result, like this is the one outcome that'll result in the fewest deaths.
I've
in
gazed
Galeria.
into the future, and of all the
Well,
threads.
at this point, it also depends on like how altruistic your party is. Because like if they just showed up, they were like, well, like if they're not good people, then they're like, well,
Then
we
do it.
don't really care. Like, it doesn't, we
Yeah.
don't know these people.
Yeah, so
Have
I mean,
a great time.
there's a chance you could just be like,
Okay.
okay, continue on.
No notes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you figure out that the thing will backfire, then, like, that's a problem. But, yeah, there's, he's basically like, this is all for the greater good here. Like, I am planning this. Like, this
Okay.
is what I'm doing. I'm
Mhm.
happy to listen to what you got, like, your concerns or thoughts if you have other solutions, though.
Okay.
Like, kind of like, I'll listen to you, but this is why I plan this.
Yeah.
So here's where you kind of can then convince Menkare to change his mind. And there's like, you can appeal to a bunch of different things and make skill checks. You can like appeal to free will or appeal to his mercy to don't sacrifice a bunch of people. Or you can tell him about the altering of the invocation. Or you can talk about the orb of dragonkind that like, it's there, here it is. Like they're trying to use it. Even you can also offer like, we can help. We're level 19 adventurers at this point. Like we can help you. And so if your checks are high enough, he basically like to make him doubt himself, like all of your checks increase his doubt level.
Yeah.
And if his doubt level gets high enough, he kind of breaks down in tears.
Oh
And
my
it's
gosh.
like-
Daddy Dragon. So
Yeah.
sad.
He like
Is it like the final boss then? Like if you make him break down in tears?
not.
I would kind of love that.
Yeah. So like he basically like he kind of comes to terms with like my intentions are good, but I was like blinded by my own arrogance.
Kind of love that. If
And
that's how
like
it ends.
yeah.
Me too.
And he's like willing to help you guys in any way you can.
Okay.
Kind of love that. Yeah. Look.
Yeah.
Love that.
So if you fail to convince him, he just says like, I'm going to keep doing this. So you can either leave or like,
stop me.
I'll try to stop. And so then you might have to fight him. If you show, at one point it says, if you show up with Emiliza, a fight's going to break out because he realizes she's trying to kill him.
Yeah.
I guess what if we theoretically took out Emiliza, what did we do with the orb? Or did we find
I
it
have it.
on
You
her?
you like find it and you
Okay.
have it. Like
The orb of confusion.
the orb of confusion. So here's kind of where the other thing is kind of annoying. It's like, that would be kind of a cool end to it. You're like, we're done. We're good.
Yeah.
But then there's like, oh, you still have to figure out Dahak and like deal with that.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So like it
yeah.
feels like kind of like a weird appendix of
Mhm.
dealing with Dahak.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah.
So at this point, with the help of Jonavar and hopefully Menkare and the players, they now have all they need to alter the invocation to empower themselves,
Mhm.
who can then jump into the demiplane of Alcetta's ring
and fight Dahak.
Fight.
fight
of Dahak.
Dahak's manifestation. You get to a place called Alcetta's Landing, which like the creator of Alcetta's ring, it was like a prototype kind of thing.
Okay.
It's like a demiplane within demiplanes. So instead of like the material plane, 5 gates, it's like demiplane with 5 demiplanes.
Okay.
So it's like
Yeah.
a prototype. But here's where Dahak has been pretty much this entire
Hanging out.
time.
Hey, buddy.
And each node, each demiplane is its own node, is like now been devastated by Dahak, who's been like destroying these like fake
Oh.
demiplane nodes and recreating them and destroying them to like kind of like,
Practice.
That's his workout.
satiate some need for destruction.
Yeah.
He also at this over the time has like thought he is Dahak himself. The manifestation has like
I am the Hawk. Yeah.
yeah, gotten its own ego and it's like, well, I am the god.
Mm.
He's like, I'm gonna break out and wreak havoc again because
I'm the Hawk.
I'm Dahak. At each node, to get to the final place, the players have to cleanse each node by like getting rid of the influence of Dahak in each area.
This seems kind of exhausting now.
I know. I'm like,
Yeah.
can we just stab something?
I know,
please?
right? So like you go through each node, you fight some enemies, you do some whatever, blah blah blah, and then after
This is so many sessions.
yes, so after you cleanse, you get to the final place, the Adamantine Fen, which is kind of like a smaller mini mirror of the Adamantine Morass, which is real Dahak's actual
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
lair. So it's like basically kind of like the Darklands, just endless caverns of stuff.
Great.
Like whatever.
Wonderful.
In this node, you fight Dahak himself. It's basically like a weird hit and run thing.
Real Dahak or
Sorry.
Fake
manifestation?
Fake Dahak himself. Real
Okay,
fake
thank you.
Dahak. Yeah. He's like trying to fight you while like running away. So you're chasing him through the caverns, trying to kill him, whatever.
That's
And
a
then-
cool
yeah.
encounter.
Eventually, you take him out. If you fail to take him out, there's a chance he could get released. And there's like a whole section of the book, like, if the PCs fail,
Oh boy.
Okay.
what happens? And it could be like, oh, yeah, he causes like a huge devastation.
Great.
Or they stop him but don't kill it, like fully get him so it's a matter of time before he comes back and they might have to deal with that later, or
Yeah,
like
yeah.
whatever. Or if you accidentally sacrifice everybody, that sucks and he gets out. Like there's like a lot of different things. But assuming you beat him, you get rid of the manifestation, the demi-plane that he's been in for all these years implodes, you get shunted right out harmlessly back out of the Venge Gate, hopefully welcomed by Menkare, who's your ally.
Who's
Dragon Daddy.
Our friend Daddy Dragon
Yes. Everybody else, and you have saved the day.
now. Whoo!
Oh,
Yeah.
This was a long road to get here.
Yes. And so there's possibly out of this, real Dahak could have realized that his manifestation got destroyed and might now be looking more towards that Galarian.
uh-huh.
Who could say? Possibly Menkare now has like a redemption arc. So like there's that. But yeah, it's like that. You kind of conclude. You're like, we saved the day.
Okay.
Everything's good, which is good. But like, it feels kind of like we saved the day. Oh, we had to do that one more thing. And now we saved the day. It was kind of a weird ending
Yeah.
to like what was actually a really cool book.
Yeah.
Like reading through
I think that this whole adventure path could have been condensed
yeah.
to like 3 books.
Well, that's my thought. Like this could have been, I mean, you could have like, this could have been 2 separate adventures. Like
yeah.
lower level stuff, or this could have been a 1 high level adventure, which would have been pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I would have preferred it be a 3-book higher level, and then like the middle book could have been like learning about all those things, but like with some context.
Yeah. and that's the main thing. Like, again, I think with the 3-book adventure, you can tease a lot of stuff earlier, and you can tease bigger things because there's not as much plot.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to go through all the steps to get to the bad guy. You could like learn earlier, right?
Because wouldn't it be cool if
Yeah.
in the first book, like, as you are saving the town and building up your citadel, you find clues about, like, the original founders, or you discover that there's no records of Le Mans Breachton anywhere else. And,
Yeah.
like, there could be ways to, like, oh, this isn't what it seems with this
Yeah.
town, that then can foreshadow the rest of it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, I don't know if I think there's a handout on the history of Menkare that might talk about Breachel. But yeah, it's weird to be like, this was at like literally first pages of the first book that the players will not find out until.
Yeah. Yeah. I can. If you like, if the Scarlet Triad like tried to recruit you in like book 2 or book 3, like, oh, you know, we also
yeah.
have like our side hustle now is like recruiting people to Promise. Like we flipped to our main hustle to our side hustle. Like, you want to come to Promise? And be like, oh, that's kind of weird. Like,
Yeah, like I think there were ways that things could have gotten pulled in earlier without taking away from like the end game,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I don't know,
and
making it feel more cohesive rather than like going to 5 different adventures and then
Yeah.
they all somehow tie together at the end.
And it does mention, like, again, at the you will get notes on his history at the end of the book that will explain that
all that stuff.
all
yeah.
that stuff. But again, it's like so far out.
Yeah.
And it's so
Hmm.
overall, and we're running a little long. It's fine. Long episode, but overall, I think the goal of the adventure, as being the first Pathfinder adventure, was to introduce a bunch of mechanics, like kind of be the first Pathfinder 2e. You
Yeah.
want to experience
Yeah.
everything. You want to experience the world. Like, for the goal of what it was, I think it accomplished that.
That's
Yeah.
true. It does take you to a lot of places. It introduces the world. It introduces all the different mechanics that you're going to have to use. So like, yeah, I get
Yeah.
it from that standpoint.
Yeah, so like it does that just from like a player perspective. Like, as a GM, it's more interesting to read this as a GM than it is to play it as a player, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Just because like you don't know all the ins and outs until the end, and like I think we did the first 3 books in like a year and a half, maybe.
It took a while.
Yeah.
So like you're thinking maybe, assuming we did the next 3 in a year and a half, so like a 3-year campaign.
Right.
Yeah.
Like the payoff at the end of 3 years of like, oh, that's why we did that thing a year and a half ago. Like, it's just, I don't
It's
know.
kind of rough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even if I'm sure that we probably took longer than you needed to, but even if it was 2 years, or even if you did the whole thing in a year and a half, that's
Yeah.
still a huge amount of time
Yep. So
to do callbacks during.
anyway, great twist. I love the overarching story, minus like Dahak. Honestly, I could probably do less without him. Like, it probably would have been easier if you just, I mean, he's kind of there. Anyway, he's tied in. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the twist at the end. Like,
Yeah.
I like the plot points from the 6th book.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
all of that is very cool.
Yeah. Reading the 6th book was really like, and honestly, the 5th too, because you're kind of like, okay, take it to the Triad, learn some things, take it to book 6, you're good. It's just like
Right.
to get there, it's just a pain.
Yeah.
So, anyway, any final thoughts? You guys been through a whirlwind?
I called all the twists. I
Sam
win.
did call the twist.
Ryan did call immediately when we talked about Lamont Breachton. He was like, I bet he did it. And you were right.
And
Oh, I did say that.
You did say
That's
that.
right. I did say that.
Good job, Ryan.
Yeah. So Ryan, for a second, you said that. I'm like, anyway, moving on to the next
Nailed it.
point. Was Menkare the whole time.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, thank you, Tyler.
Yeah. It was, I'm glad I actually because I never finished it all, having read it all tied together. I kind of knew the high points, but I
Yeah.
hadn't read through the details. So going through that, I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. But still wouldn't really recommend playing this through. It might be a good read, or if you enjoyed listening to it, it's a good listen. But yeah,
Good. Well, thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Sam. Thank you to all of our listeners. This was probably a little bit longer than maybe we thought it was going to turn into, but still super interesting.
yeah,
I called it.
you did.
I'm really proud that I called it. No, I totally forgot I did that. Reminder that we're back now. We're excited. We're back to our schedule.
Yes.
If you want to get involved, we have our email, Tabletop Travel Guide podcast@gmail.com. You can reach us on Patreon, Tabletop Travel Guide Podcast, and the Instagram Tabletop Travel Guide, I believe.
Yeah. Yep.
But with that all being said, then excited to keep going, and safe travels, everyone.